Hello, YouTube, and hello, Facebook. Welcome into DawgNation Daily, presented by Kroger here on this Friday. I'm glad to have all of you with us. We're going to have a good time today. I've also got a lot to tell you about. Some fun things going on around DawgNation, both online and I guess kind of in a social way coming up throughout the day. So DawgNation's got a lot planned for today that we'll look forward to telling you about, but I also want to take a lot of your comments and just generally speaking, having a good time here on this Friday. Of course, we'll have a podcast edition of our program coming up a little bit later on. I'm also going to try not to shake the table too much because every time I do, it seems to shake my computer, and I don't want to make y'all sick. But nonetheless, really good time today and a lot for us to discuss. You may have seen the announcement just a moment ago that the Atlanta Falcons have signed former Georgia running back Todd Gurley to a one-year deal. A chance for Gurley to come into the Falcons organization, show what he's all about, and be ready to maybe make for himself more money on the other side of this. Obviously, for UGA fans, the connection is easy to get here. I was watching Get Up this morning on ESPN, and Adam Schefter and some of the ESPN NFL personalities who were talking a lot about this were clearly making a lot of the UGA connection for Gurley, the fact that he's coming home here. And frankly, this is something I think that you Georgia fans ought to really celebrate, right? I mean, we've talked in the past. I wrote at DawgNation.com not too long ago that I would love to see the Falcons draft DeAndre Swift. And the response to that is from a lot of Georgia fans of, well, the Falcons don't draft UGA players. And a lot of Georgia fans feel that way. And I understand the frustration, and I've kind of chronicled some of those high-profile misses, Gurley being one of them, going back when he first entered the NFL, of Atlanta having a chance to draft a big-time Georgia player, passing on that, and that guy going on to great success somewhere else. So I get the frustration that some Georgia fans have had about this, and yet I think it's also important now in the wake of Atlanta bringing a guy like Gurley in. Now, I don't think the Falcons bring him in because he went to Georgia, but certainly you look at the national media response to this, they're pretty clearly drawing that line between Gurley having been in Athens and being Atlanta now. I think Georgia fans have an opportunity here. I'll stop short of saying it's an obligation, but it's certainly an opportunity to support this move, right? I'm not saying you have to buy a Falcons jersey. I'm not saying you have to buy Falcons tickets because of this. But if you want more guys like Gurley in a Falcons uniform, making it make sense for them financially is probably a pretty good incentive to see more of these kinds of things in the future. More Georgia players being drafted, more Georgia players being signed in free agency. I have no idea how good Atlanta is going to be this upcoming season. The odds are they won't be very good, but they are more fun to watch, I believe, because they have Todd Gurley. So I think this would be a good thing for Falcons fans who are Georgia fans, for Georgia fans who maybe – I talk to a lot of Georgia fans who don't even like the NFL that much. They're so big into college football that they don't even follow the NFL that closely. Well, this would be a good excuse, I think, for you to kind of follow the league more closely. Show some support to them for making a move that I think for the average Georgia fan is pretty enjoyable. So get in on that. We'll talk about that. I'm excited about it. I think it's fun. And in a week in which, my gosh, we need as much good news as we can get, I think the presence of Gurley in a Falcons uniform is a little bit of some good news. So we'll take some comments on this on both sides. Blake Pillsbury says, rise up and go Dogs. Matthew Lewis checking in. Jesse Sagas checking in. Lindsey Hardeman says, Todd Gurley's a Falcon. Yeah, people love that idea. Love that for sure. Over on YouTube, Colby Curry says, Todd Gurley back in Georgia. He's got the clap going for that. Tony Tillman, morning to you as well. Donor 1953 says, perhaps the Falcons realize they need for more, loyalty when it comes to the local fan base. Certainly can't hurt, right? I think if you live in the Atlanta area, which I do, the one thing that is hard to deny is that the sporting landscape is really crowded. And sometimes people will say, well, Atlanta's not a great sports town. It's a tired debate. I don't want to get into that. I don't want to do that. But I think one of the things to understand about a very big city like Atlanta, one of the 10 biggest cities in America, is that in non-coronavirus times, in any given moment, there is just a lot. There is a lot going on with all of that. In any given moment, there's the soccer team, there's the Braves, there's the Hawks, there's the whatever else, and it's hard to kind of get your piece of the pie, even for a franchise like the Falcons, which you kind of think of as part of the NFL, and the NFL is the giant behemoth. In the Atlanta area, it's still hard to get attention for that because this is a big college sports market, not just UGA, but all the other, programs that kind of have alumni hubs here in this city as well. So that's a real big challenge to kind of get that attention. And the Falcons sometimes have not always succeeded in getting a huge lion's share of attention here in the city of Atlanta. So every little bit helps. And from that standpoint, I do think Gurley helps. By the way, one of our producers, Michael Carbell, reached out to say that don't forget, if you're buying that Gurley Falcons jersey, maybe a smart thing to do would be wait until after April to do it when Atlanta unveils its brand new they're unveiling new uniforms coming up around the time of the NFL draft. So maybe keep that in mind. That's probably a pretty good point. VTW says now that they have Gurley, they better not draft Swift in the first round. They better go defense. I think a lot of Falcons fans would probably say that. We can also talk some Georgia stuff as well. One of the things I'm going to do on today's podcast edition of DawgNation Daily presented by Kroger, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to have a little more fun with Connor Riley, the DawgNation Twitter feed, put together his field of, it's not quite 64 moments, but it's bracket style tournament of the top moments thus far in the Kirby Smart era, and voting has been ongoing on that. So as a way of just kind of passing the time and having some fun, you ought to step in there and cast your vote on that. I think that's really pretty fun to do. I'm going to talk on the podcast about my feeling on this, and Connor's actually going to be a guest today on the podcast. And one of the things that we kind of got into, by the way, I don't have fancy graphic to show you, but there's the let's see if we can get that. There it is. That's all the moments that you can vote for. I realize you can't see these. I'm just showing it to you to prove that it exists. But you can go and you can vote on all of this. And the number one seed, the top overall moment is the Sony Michel Rose Bowl touchdown. That's the biggest moment thus far in the Kirby Smart era. And it's obviously going to be tough to topple that, right? I mean, so when Connor and I recorded a conversation for the podcast, that was one of the things I tried to approach it from the standpoint of, well, if I take the obvious moment off the board, and I think you can make a case that Sony Michel's Rose Bowl touchdown, I realize it doesn't result in a national championship, but other than that, I think you can make a case that that moment, given the fact that it comes in maybe the sports top venue, and Rose Bowl Stadium in Pasadena might be the single best venue in this sport, and maybe among the best venues of sports across the entire landscape. The fact that the guy that scores the touchdown is a player with like unanimous 100% approval rating, Sony Michel, incredibly popular. The fact that it comes against a team like Oklahoma, which is a bold print marquee opponent. The fact that they had a villainous quarterback like Baker Mayfield. Michel's Rose Bowl touchdown is pretty dadgum close to just being a perfect sports moment. So it's hard to beat that thus far in the Kirby Smart era. But on the podcast today, I'm going to try to make a case for a couple of other pretty significant moments. So we'll do a lot of that. So we can talk about that on here as well. Some folks expressing some anti-NFL sentiment, and I understand that. Hoop Dog says the beard needs to stay. Yeah, how y'all feeling about it? I know I'm not supposed to be touching my face. I'll try not to. But there's a little example for Facebook here, a little example for YouTube here. I feel like it's coming okay, right? I feel like it's not too bad. You'll also notice that I decorated my makeshift studio. I feel like it's brighter this is my kitchen table where I'm sitting at right now. I feel like it's a little brighter in here now than the other office was. So I think I'm going to stay with this for the environment here. Breda Pass Management says he got to coach against Derek Brown when he played high school basketball. He was a freak for that size. Yeah, Derek Brown's an amazing athlete. And he's one of those guys that that one really does sting, right? A lot of you remember the 2016 recruiting cycle when, Georgia tried to make it strong, pitch to Brown late. It was I think the first arrival of the Kirby Copter going to Lanier High School there in Sugar Hill to try to win over Derek Brown. And ultimately Auburn won that recruitment. Brown's a good player. That would have been a nice one to have for sure. And I think that Georgia has done a pretty good job in the post-Derek Brown era of establishing itself as a better, more the place to be for defensive linemen. I think that Trey Scott's actually done a pretty good job in that regard. Because after Brown, it was the high-profile miss with Aubrey Solomon. It's turned out that Solomon, not as significant a miss as the Brown thing turned out to be. But for a while, you could ask some real legitimate questions about what Georgia was not doing in the way of recruiting its defensive linemen. I think that's gotten way better. Now, Georgia's got to have defensive linemen produce at the major college level, and it needs to have more guys get drafted. That's a little bit of a hole in Kirby Smart's resume right now, or are those elite defensive linemen moving on to the NFL draft? I feel like the more that guys like Trayvon Walker develop and progress, and if you want to count the outside linebackers as a part of this sort of a defensive end, depending on the scheme that you're looking at. You're going to see some of those guys come along there. Obviously, there's some very hopeful names like Jalen Carter for the most recent class of 2020. So there is a lot of that, but it's pretty clear that Georgia has upgraded its defensive line recruiting after missing on Brown in 2016. And now you want to see those guys produce on the field the way that Brown did in Auburn uniform. That's pretty clearly something that Georgia's going to need to do here. I think that's a good comment. Let me see what else here. Silent Chaos says WD-40 works best. BA works best for what? What do I need WD-40 for? Jonathan seriously asked a good question. Would you rather the Falcons have gotten Gurley or Swift? That's a really good question. I guess I'm sort of fine either way. I won't turn this into a full Falcon show, but I do think Atlanta will still look to address running back relatively early in its draft process. I don't think Swift's a factor there. Would I have rather had Swift than Gurley? I might would have, just given everything that's out there. But, my understanding is, and I'm not a capologist, I don't even want to be one, but listen, for the money, on a 1-year deal, I think having Gurley here in Atlanta is going to be pretty fun. Karen Moses says, in terms of the top moments of the Smart era, it's always going to be Sony and Pasadena. Yeah, I'll make another professional sports comment here. We talked some Falcons a moment ago. To me, the Sony Michel Rose Bowl touchdown is a little bit like, I'm going to date myself with this reference, but you can remember the 92 National League Championship Series with the Braves, in which, the Francisco Cabrera hit, the Sid Bream slide. The Braves had a campaign for a while. Where were you when Sid slid? That moment also doesn't result in a World Series. The Braves would go on to lose the 92 World Series to the Toronto Blue Jays and would then win a World Series a couple of years after that in 1995. But I don't think there's anything from the 95 season that eclipses what happened when the Braves walked off to win the 1992 National League Championship Series. I think for Georgia, I think it's going to kind of be the same way, that Georgia may eventually win a national championship. I believe that it's going to. But when it does, it's hard to imagine there's going to be a single moment from that national championship that's better than Michel's walk-off to win the Rose Bowl back in 2017. So sometimes, and I think chronology plays a role into this because it would have happened prior to any kind of national championship or anything like that. Sometimes the big moments don't necessarily have to result in a championship. The Braves didn't win the World Series the year that Sid slid, but it's still, I think, the most cherished memory of that Braves era. This Kirby Smart era could result in multiple national championships. But even if it does, I don't know there's going to be a single moment from any of that that's superior to the Michel walk-off touchdown in the Rose Bowl. That's how special that moment really was. All right, boy, good bit of Falcons talk in the YouTube comment section here today. KT Tyson says, love to see Gurley in red and black. Now, KT, I got to be careful here. As our buddy Michael Carvell mentioned a moment ago, Falcons are unveiling new uniforms. Sometimes these NFL teams, when they unveil new uniforms, also unveil new color schemes as well. So I'm hopeful that when that new color scheme is revealed, it does remain red and black, but we'll have to see about that. All right, what else? Yeah, Lucy Bowers Boykin on the subject of those moments. We're talking about just the Smart era moments. And I'll give you my case for one of these coming up in a minute too. Our buddy Matt Brady also mentioned this, and I was talking to Connor Riley off the air about this. So he says he's been trying those Scott Sinclair workouts. Have y'all been seeing these things? It's really pretty good stuff, where Scott Sinclair has been releasing, like, totally free and very, very generous, these workouts for what people can do in their home while they're quarantined or self-isolating, whatever it is. Like, here's the example from today. Hold on.
Fast, got a lot of exercises. First exercise, 5-minute jog. Next exercise, overhead squat.
So this is Scott Cochran doing that. He's like holding up a broom and saying, "Hey, you can you do shoulder presses, things like that with that," and it looks like a pretty good workout, pretty good thing to do overall. It looks like it'd be a pretty nice thing. But I'm like, Matt, it's like some of that stuff for someone like me whose dexterity is probably not as good as it once was. The last thing I need is have to go to the emergency room right now for a non-coronavirus related reason. That just seems like a not very enjoyable thing. So I'm going to say thanks to Scott Sinclair for making those workouts available. But I'm going to do something a little bit lower impact here for right now. All right, let's get a few more comments here on the show. Rodney Smith sharing one of his favorite moments. Good stuff on that. Matt Rukavina says they're talking about Todd Gurley on First Take. Yeah, and that's the cool thing about a moment like this. When Atlanta makes a signing at a time when there's not a lot of other sports news going on, it's fun to be able to see them get some attention for that. But from the Georgia standpoint, I mentioned this. I was watching Get Up on ESPN early this morning, and when they were mentioning Gurley on that show, they were talking a lot about Gurley's connection to UGA, and that was coming out. There's, Todd Gurley just has a lot of cultural relevance, and it's pretty clear that, I think that Kendall Milton has cited Gurley as an influence on him. It's pretty clear that Gurley just kind of gives off a cool vibe. People think of him as cool, and I think that coolness has really helped Georgia. And the fact that Gurley's in a high-profile move now coming to the Falcons, he's not from the state of Georgia, but it has the feel of a homecoming a bit. I do think this benefits Georgia in a way. I do. Jay Shipe says that he does his exercises 12 ounces at a time. That's very funny, Jay. I like that. So the Kirby Smart era moment that I'm going to tout as maybe, because it's hard to come up with something that's not Sony Michel in the Rose Bowl, right? It's just that's just kind of a hard thing to do all the way around. The one that I'm going to make a case for is the Notre Dame, the original DawgNation invasion. The original invasion to South Bend back in 2017. That's the one for me that when I think about my own memories, that just sticks out so prominently. And hopefully this isn't a story about me, it's a story about the experience. But so Notre Dame Stadium is a very nice stadium, very nice. It had been recently renovated when we went there. And off the press box, there's like this patio area. It's like the nicest rooftop bar you've ever seen, except not serving alcohol. It's just adjacent to the press box. And I'd stepped out there in time to see the light up, what we think of as typically light up Sanford. In this case, was light up South Bend. The Redcoat Band playing the Krypton theme, every fan having their cell phone out and kind of doing that deal. It was an amazing thing to be able to see. And I think it perfectly capsulized all of the Georgia fans who were in South Bend that day. If you scroll back far enough in the past, and if you search, you might be able to find this as well. We actually had it's like an old school Facebook video, so it's not wide, it's vertical, because back then I guess we didn't know to turn our phone sideways to record stuff like this. But you can see we have a video of this, and other people have, kind of videos of this kind of stuff as well. But that particular moment, because I think a lot of people kind of treat that as, well, Georgia fans were just so fired about Kirby Smart that they were in South Bend that day. But if you really think about the logistics of this, a lot of that travel was planned more than a year in advance. So a lot of the Georgia fans who were buying those tickets to go to South Bend and be at Notre Dame and, be a part of that DawgNation invasion, they weren't doing that because they were so fired up about Kirby Smart. They were doing it, I believe, because that's how fired up they were about Georgia. I've always said this, that when it comes to UGA, Georgia fans have outperformed the program really for a long time. Georgia fans and their loyalty, Georgia fans and their willingness to scarf up apparel and buy tickets and donate money and all of those things. For Georgia, a lot of that has exceeded the on-field performance a lot. And I think the 2017 Notre Dame takeover, the DawgNation invasion, the original one of those, I think that was a good visual representation of just how hungry Georgia fans are to be the most relevant program in the country. And I think it's a really good snapshot of what Smart himself was stepping into in terms of being the coach at a time when only championship success was going to be good enough, at a time when, until you've won 10 games, you haven't even done better than your predecessor. It's a lot of pressure. It's an insatiable hunger on the part of Georgia fans. I thought the Notre Dame trip, in addition to being really fun, was really a pretty nice representation of all of that. And so if I'm going to make a case for my own personal moment and memory during the Smart era, for as obvious a choice as the Rose Bowl is, I think you can make a case that the Notre Dame trip in 2017, the original DawgNation invasion, ought to have a pretty prominent place on that list. By the way, DawgNation on Twitter is where you can go and vote on this. The other thing that you see a lot of is moments against Florida, right? Whether it be Lawrence Gage this past year, some of the stuff that Jake Fromm has done, J.J. Holloman, I think, also having a big game there. And I think it's important whether you vote for those in this particular bracket or not, I think it's important to celebrate those moments along the way, because while Georgia is building up its program and pushing to hopefully win a national championship eventually, I think it's important to enjoy those little wins, those little moments there along the way. And a lot of what's happening against Florida and Dan Mullen in particular, the flea flicker against Mississippi State in 2017, when Mullen was still the coach of those Maroon Bulldogs, that's on this list too. And so it's kind of cool to see now that Mullen's become a nemesis, the fact that you got a couple of those games against Mullen on this list and a couple of those games against Florida. So those are some of the fun things that you can vote for there as well. All right, let's do a few more things here for a moment. Elvis Presley says if the Falcons drafted all the UGA players, the revenue would triple. Maybe it would. Maybe it would. Let's see what else is going on. Keith Old says if the Falcons dump the red and black, I'll dump the Falcons. So I don't have any information that's what they're going to do, but you do have to keep your head on the swivel. They are going to have a new a new uniform at least. Let's get a few more comments here. Good to see Miriam Martin Corbin in here today. Monty Moon says, I hope that Todd pops off, not just for the Falcons' success, but also his contract the next year. Yeah, me too. Me too. Chris Branham says the Tua ruined the most magical season of all time. It was a painful way to end that. I'm not going to lie to you about that. But I think that's also part of the backstory that'll make the eventual success all that much more fun to enjoy. Eric Zeldin says, great way to wake up on the West Coast. Let's go Gurley. Yeah, that's nice to know, Eric. Thanks for being with us here in the program. By the way, David Hamansky brings a really good point. That there's a Georgia takeover right now on the SEC network, and I believe it's the Georgia Notre Dame game from this past season that's being shown right now. So I think it's 2019 that's being shown. So you can check that on the SEC network. Don't turn us off, but if you want to turn that on and enjoy that while we're doing this, you can certainly do that. Yeah, so somebody asked about how much for a Todd Gurley. I think the contract's $5 million. You can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I believe that's right. And Joel Moody also mentioned the Terry Godwin catch against Notre Dame. It's one of the great catches probably in Georgia football history, right? Just in terms of the athletic ability required to pull it off. One of the real great catches. And, listen, not to, I guess, promote bootleg video content, but it's not that hard to find the NBC broadcast of that game on YouTube. It's always interesting to me. You just don't see Georgia on NBC very much. I think of Mike Tirico as a terrific play-by-play man. I don't know that he's ever been better than he is on that game against Notre Dame. They did a good job of kind of painting the pageantry for both sides. They did a good job of kind of representing the Georgia fans and how robust their attendance was. It's a really good broadcast on NBC. The opening sequence features some stuff with Herschel Walker. So if you're looking for something to watch, that Georgia-Notre Dame game from 2017 is actually pretty fun. The game itself was a little bit devoid of action, pretty low-scoring game. Neither offense was kind of, all that great for the most part. But because it's low-scoring, there's like some sustained tension associated with it, which overall makes it a ton of fun. And Lucy Bowers-Boykin has some nice things to say about that there as well. Tessie Robinson, good to see you. Thanks for being here as a part of our comment section here today. A DawgNation Daily presented by Kroger. We appreciate you being here. Jan Armistead says the Gershel, basically combining Gurley and Marshall, and the Thunder and Lightning were great memories for Georgia fans. Yeah, they really are. Really, they were really terrific memories. And it's good to get a chance to relive some of those right now. Let's go get some more Facebook comments. Lindsay Hardeman watching that Georgia Notre Dame game right now. Well, Lindsay, we appreciate you doing double duty, talking to us while you're also watching that. Let me also remind you that we got a lot going on in DawgNation. I mentioned that you go to the DawgNation Twitter feed. You can vote on the top moments of the Smart era. That's an ongoing bracket-style challenge we have going on. Also today at 5 p.m., if you go to forum.dawgnation.com, go to forum.dawgnation. Hold on, let me see if I can find this for you. If you go to forum.dawgnation.com, you can be a part of a special DawgNation social hour that we're going to do. So the forum is really fun. It's a great message board. It's totally free. For some reason, my computer's running my phone's running a little slow right now, but it's totally free. And it's a great chance for you to kind of just keep up to date with a lot of UGA fans. And today, myself, Mike Griffith, Jeff Sentell, Connor Riley, all starting at 5 p.m. are going to be part of a thread in there. We're just going to be kicking around a lot of topics and just having a really good time all the way around. So we'd love for you to be a part of that with us. little bit later on today at the Dog Nation forum at forum.dawgnation.com, starting at 5 p.m. for a very special Dog Nation social hour. So be a part of that. It's just going to be kind of a fun way to kick around a lot of content. So we appreciate you being here. By the way, thanks for Kroger for making it all possible. I'm going to have your Kroger graphic to show you before the show's done. My kids are hard at work getting that ready right now. And don't forget, Kroger's got special hours for you right now. They're opening at 8 a.m. right now to help make sure the store stays really clean and the shelves get stocked. That's an important thing. The folks at Kroger have been working so hard right now, and we just appreciate the work they're doing to kind of help keeping us with food in our stomachs and refrigerators full and everything else. They're doing a really good job of that. And by the way, if you go to Kroger.com, you can also check out some information about some hiring. Kroger's actually bringing in new employees. I know for a lot of people, they've actually lost work lately, and Kroger's doing their part to sort of step in and help the community there and fill that void by bringing in some folks and offering some work opportunities. So you can check out Kroger.com for more details on that. They are hiring during this very unusual time a lot of us are going through. So huge thanks to Kroger on that. And if you are in need of a job, Kroger may be a great place for you to turn on that. So check out Kroger.com for a whole lot more on that. All right, let's see what else is going on here on YouTube and on Facebook. So we will kind of see what's going on. We may have to block some stuff on YouTube over here. We're going to have to check on that. Maybe somebody that's working with us can help us out with that if they see anything. James Gregory Carney says, any chance that Atlanta still picks up DeAndre Swift? I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be a possibility now, just on the basis of what Atlanta has already done by bringing in Todd Gurley. But I do think Atlanta's going to still look for a running back. As it stands now, they have 2 second-round picks, and I would say there's a really good chance that one of those ends up getting used on a running back spot, maybe a third-round pick, something like that as well. But by that point in time, obviously, DeAndre Swift is likely to be off the board. So you can kind of check on that. Alan Logan says you call it the swirly show, bringing Swift and Gurley. I think I might have my Kroger graphic about ready. If it is, my helpers can bring that in here if they're about ready. So we'll let them bring that over here. Keith Fold says, can't believe the SEC network left the Rose Bowl off the lineup. Yeah, if they're not showing that during the takeover, that's actually a pretty disappointing thing, because there's like no game that Georgia fans like to go back and relive more than that. Looks like I could be having a Kroger graphic to show you guys here in just a little bit. Nick Lurch says kind of quiet where the kids be. So they're pretty good about staying relatively quiet during this portion of the show. But I believe they're about to come over here and help me with a Kroger graphic. I'm gonna let them make their way over here in just a minute. Yeah, here they come. Y'all say hello to. This is Charlie, and Charlie's worked hard on this Kroger graphic. Can you say hello to the Facebook folks over here, Charlie? Okay, you go over here. You got your mask on. I think the mask is supposed to go down like this. I think it's supposed to be like that. That's how that works. So this is Charlie. This is Kate. Can I see the graphic again? This is the Kroger graphic they put together for us here today. And maybe the reason why they're so quiet is because they got their masks on. But nonetheless, huge thanks to Kroger for making this all possible. Making DawgNation Daily possible here today. Don't forget, new hours for Kroger. They're open at 8 a.m. Guys, thanks so much for stopping by and seeing us. We'll hear from you guys, I'm sure, over the course of the next couple of days. Now you got to go get your schoolwork done. We'll see y'all later on. All right, good stuff there from Charlie and Kate, who bring by the Kroger graphic, and they have their masks on, so they're doing good and having a really good time right now. Joel Moody also brings up a pretty good Smart era moment, some of those celebrations. And yes, at least 2 of the more famous ones did make the list at DawgNation on Twitter. The Yeet dance, I believe that's what it's called, after the Florida game from 2018, and the HBTFD from the Auburn game this past year. Both of those did make their way on there. I guess if you expanded the bracket a little more, another celebration you could have put on there is the crowd jump against Tennessee this past year, and Fromm singing Rocky Top after that game. You could do some of that kind of stuff as well, I guess, if you wanted to. Green Soldier, good to see you checking in. Appreciate that. Glad to have you here today. Let's get a few more Facebook comments here coming up too, and hope you all are all having a good Friday. Kyla and Susan Richter says the Todd Gurley signing is nothing but positive. Totally agree. Actually makes me want to watch the Falcons this season. Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that. And I'm going to talk more about this in the podcast today. I hope that Georgia fans will celebrate this as a positive and kind of reward Atlanta for doing something that most Georgia fans would want. Listen, jerseys are expensive, tickets are expensive. I'm not telling you how to spend your money, but if you want to see the Falcons do more of this kind of stuff, supporting them for having made this decision is probably a good way to incentivize that. Same thing with Georgia as well. When the team's doing well, a lot of times they ask you for more money. They ask you for bigger donations. They ask you for stuff like that. Ticket prices kind of go up, and that's a little frustrating. But, I think for sports fans, finding a way to incentivize programs, organizations doing what you want them to do, I think that's probably pretty important all the way around. So Sav ATL on YouTube bringing up what somebody else I think brought up on Facebook the other day, the notion that the preferred walk-on Kate Brock, who Jeff Sentell has written about at DawgNation.com, could maybe be a fullback. Listen, I'd love to see Georgia employing a fullback again. I think that NFL teams that use fullbacks have great success doing that. Now, you don't have a fullback on the field every single time, but having that as a part of your arsenal, I think that makes a ton of sense. I think that makes a ton of sense. Let's get a few more Facebook comments here for a moment. Lynn Johnson Shipman still thinking about that muff punt from Tyler Simmons early in the season. Yeah, listen, that was not a happy moment for sure, and that did happen in that Notre Dame game. Michelle Starn says, is Georgia going to play this season? So I think we're all kind of entering into a moment in which we got to be really careful about the news that we're getting, because some of it can almost seem contradictory, right? It's like on one hand, you hear somebody saying something that sounds semi-positive. On the other hand, you hear somebody saying something that sounds like really dire and super negative. And, I'm not a scientist. I'm not very well equipped in kind of synthesizing all of these disparate statistical analyses of what's going on here. So I don't know. But my answer, Michelle, is the same as it has been, is that I think it's helpful to think of the season as starting on time, practice beginning in the summer. I think that's helpful. I think one of the things that will get more people to cooperate, like the reason why we're doing the show from home, it's a pain to try to do this from home because the video is way different. It's one of the reasons we have our homemade graphics and things like that, because of the fact that that we can't have our in studio bells and whistles that we've come used to using. We don't have access to that kind of stuff. So it's a pain to do the show from home. But we're trying to do that as a way of, I guess, to the extent that my influence matters at all. We're trying to set a good example. We're trying to keep people safe and healthy. We've been told that's the best way to manage all of this. Other people are trying to do the same. However, admittedly, the more this feels like an indefinite period of time, the more this feels like something that is non-specific when it's going to get better. I think the harder it is to get people to cooperate. I mean, there was a meme that got passed around a lot. It got sent to me, I think, a couple of times, of somebody who said, if you told Georgia fans or college football fans the best way to make sure the college football season happens on time is to have everybody stay indoors for a week, you'd have no problem getting 100% participation. And I guess that's kind of the attitude that I'm occupying on this. College football primarily, but other things I enjoy doing, going to the pool in the summer and all that kind of stuff. I want to be able to do that. So I'm trying to lock myself and my family indoors right now so that we can have more of that later on. So that's what we're trying to do. And so will the season start on time? I don't have a way of knowing if it will or if it won't. But I do believe that acting as if it is going to start on time and hoping that it does, I think is the best way to get more compliance, rigid compliance during this time right now. So I guess do with that what you will. But Michelle, I think that's a question that's on everybody's mind for the moment. Let me get a few more Facebook comments. We'll do a few more YouTubes here as well, and I'll try to keep my eyes on both screens. Barry Tenahan says, on the Gurley stuff, how much will they make on Gurley jerseys? I hope it's a lot. I do. I mean, I want to incentivize teams making popular choices. I do. I want there to be an incentive to do that. Nick Lurch thinks it'll be a ton, and I hope that it is. George Herndon says Brandon Herndon was a great fullback. You better believe that. Great to think about that. Lindsay Hardiman says, glad to be getting some good sports news. I totally agree with you, as opposed to the other stuff that's in the news right now. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Robert Dibble on the subject of that 2017 Rose Bowl. It's important to remember that, as Robert brings up, the Tate Crowder recovery of the onside, not the onside, but the squib kick from Oklahoma is a big moment in that game that sets up the Rodrigo kick, which sets up the second half comeback and sets up all of that. It's a really fun game to watch. And any game like that, you're going to have a number of heroes. The Lorenzo Carter blocked field goal obviously comes to mind. You just can't have something like that without a whole bunch of heroes showing up. So, and Crowder's one of those. And it's important to remember that. Let me see. Over here on YouTube for a moment. And listen, I know that different people have different feelings about what's going on with all of this. This is just not, I'm a big believer, this is just not the place to deliberate on that kind of stuff. So, I get that different people have different perspectives, and certainly there are outlets you can go to talk about that. But for the most part around here, we're going to talk about two things: what's happening in the sports world right now and how much we all wish and hope that this very quickly gets back to normal. But some of the other opinions that may be out there on this, it's just not our place to do that. Andrew Hughes says, what's behind you there? So on this side over here, that's my kitchen. And what's directly behind me, so this was the logo from DawgNation Appreciation from a couple of years ago. We did this at the Roxy Theater next to what is now known as Truist Park, where the Braves play. And it was an event that we did with Nick Chubb and Sony Michel and Roquan Smith and Lorenzo Carter and Davin Bellamy. We had them all there on stage there that night to reminisce with the 2017 season. And the what you see behind us is the logo that we used. We had a big blow up of that on the set there that day, which was really fun. It was, you talk about it is probably the single most, I guess, the single moment from DawgNation's history that I'm the most proud of is the fact that we had 1,000+ people in that big theater there that night to hear these guys tell their stories, and they signed autographs, and it was just a really, really fun moment. And you can't quite see this because of the way the light shines on the glass, and this thing is not always hanging right there. I just hung it there as a way of making this look a little bit more like a DawgNation thing. But that's actually autographed by Chubb, and Michelle, and Roquan, and Lorenzo, and Davin. All 5 of those guys signed that. I actually stole that from my boss's office. I'm going to give it back to him. But just to have a little something here at home to make it look a little bit more like DawgNation around here. So that is that. Yeah. Johnny Lester says, now this is a comment I will read. This is funny. Johnny says the CDC is recommending no Facebook comments, just saying, as the Facebook YouTube rivalry continues there again. So that's pretty fun to see. Boy, a lot of love for Cade Brock as a fullback. This has been actually a very popular comment the last few days. He may be the new Nate McBride, which is kind of neat to see. Army Dog Charlie says, are you guys going to do another T-shirt, another DawgNation Appreciation? That was a great night. I hope so. Logistically, it's been a little bit difficult to pull off the last couple of years, but I hope that we're able to do that for sure. And I think there's a chance that one day we will do that again. So a lot of good comments rolling in here. We got a couple of minutes left. We're going to get ready to go after that. As I mentioned before, huge thanks to Kroger for making DawgNation Daily possible here today. And huge thanks to my kids who got a chance to meet a little earlier who brought that over. We'll also get ready to roll into our R.S. Andrews cool down right now. I'll remind you that air conditioning, heating, plumbing, electric, R.S. Andrews can do all of that for you. We've had the air conditioning on around here the last couple of days. So you may be experiencing the same thing right now. And if yours is not working the way that you want it to, rsandrews.com for more on that. Let me also tell you that if you go to DawgNation.com, the top of the page right now, you can see a link into the daily AJC paper. They're making that free for you right now, which is a very generous act on the part of the AJC to help stay up to date on everything happening with the coronavirus epidemic, or I guess it's a pandemic. I don't really know the difference, but stay up to date on all of that. DawgNation.com has a link, right? Easy to find right up there at the top to get to the AJC paper, which they're making available for free right now. A very good thing. Kay and Brandy Wilson say, is Todd Gurley going to the Falcons? Yes, that is going down here. Appears to be the case. Over here on YouTube, Johnny Lester says, I'd like to use the fullback the way that the Niners use the fullback in the Super Bowl. Yeah. Kyle Shanahan, the coach of the 49ers, that's one of the things he's famous for, is really effective use of the fullback. Go back and watch when he was with the Falcons 2016, that record-setting offense. fullback usage was a big part of the most successful plays Atlanta ran that year too. Dennis Wilson says, yeah, thanks, Dennis. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Very kind of you. Good to see the coronavirus hasn't stopped Dennis from poking at Georgia fans here. Some things never change, which is good. Keith Fold says he watched a Wake Forest, North Carolina State game on SEC Network. Impressed with Jamie Newman. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. Yeah, I mean, chance to kind of acquaint yourself with what Newman has been as a player. That's probably a pretty good use of this time right now, I'd say. Boy, a lot of fullback talk over here on the YouTube page. A couple minutes left. We'll get ready to wrap things up. As I said before, I hope you will join us today at 5 at the forum at forum.dawgnation.com. That's going to be a fun thing. Also, as a part of our podcast today, DawgNation Daily on podcast, and if you haven't been here to hear me say this before, the podcast, for the most part, because the technology is just a little bit easier, the podcast, for the most part, is just like a regular edition of DawgNation Daily. We got the music, we have guests, we have all of that kind of stuff. So really, for the podcast audience, they're not experiencing a whole lot of differences. Now, the way I record the interviews is a little bit different, so it sounds a little different. But in terms of the overall delivery, that's all about the same. So I hope that those of you that typically watch the video, I know you don't have just unlimited time, but if you typically watch the video and you want additional content, for now, the podcast is additional content where we're creating that very, very similar to the same way in which DawgNation Daily kind of always works, and the way that I'm looking forward to being able to deliver to you back again the moment that we're back in the studio and doing our regular show. One of the things I am going to do in today's podcast, I have a really fun story to tell you, but what I think of as funny thing that happened to Tennessee coach Jeremy Pruitt, something that he recently bragged about that he may not quite have as much room to brag about anymore. This is pretty good stuff, and I'll tell you more about that coming up. Bob Garrison says, have I seen empty arena wrestling? I have seen empty arena wrestling. I mean, really, wrestling's about all in my social or sort of, content sphere. That's about the only thing I have that's still going on, right? So I've actually watched more wrestling lately than I've used to watching, and I've actually been kind of entertained by the empty arena stuff. Somebody the other day, kind of may have been Bob himself, compared to the old World Championship Wrestling tapings at the TBS studio in downtown Atlanta, where it was like, very small venue, very, very, cramped quarters. And what they're kind of doing now seems a little bit like that. And it's just a very different experience, right? I mean, crowd reactions, getting a crowd to react is a huge part of the wrestling story. And so when you are wrestling without the crowd, you're just kind of forced to do some different things. And honestly, it's been pretty creative. And frankly, I think it gives you a new appreciation. And I realize a lot of you aren't wrestling fans. I won't talk about this too long, but I think it gives you a new appreciation for just how charismatic some of these folks are. That they're able to carry the moment in an empty venue, just their own personality. They're able to kind of sell the storyline or whatever. So I've actually, the empty arena wrestling that I've seen has actually been pretty good. And I'm thankful to have it. Otherwise, there's not much of anything on TV right now. Michael Hoffman says, how fast do you see those Gurley Falcons shirts selling out? I hope really fast. Like I said off the top of the program, I think it would do Georgia fans well to incentivize the Falcons to make more moves like this. If you don't step up and buy the Gurley jersey, if you don't step up and buy the Falcon ticket to go see Gurley play, then Atlanta would be within its rights to say, well, what does it matter if we bring in a Georgia player? It's not like they're going to step up and support us anyway. So this would be a good time to do that. All right, few more comments. We got to go. Jay Scheib says, you lose cred when you talk about wrestling. Just saying. Yeah, I realize it's not everybody's cup of tea, but here's the thing, Jay. One way or another, I just got to be myself, right? I'm not any kind of PhD or anything like that. I'm just a regular guy that enjoys regular stuff. And I grew up watching wrestling. It's not everybody's thing. That's why I don't talk about it all the time. But I'm not going to shy away from what was really enjoyable for me growing up. And a lot of, I guess, my cultural influences do kind of come from that world. I certainly don't tell you that you need to like it or anything like that, but I can't pretend to be anything other than what I am. He says wrestling should have ended when Andre the Giant passed away. Yeah, listen, Andre was certainly a icon, to be sure. All right, let's see what else is going on. A couple more, and we got to get ready to go. And I know I keep saying that, but we got to do this. Hugh Nash says, welcome to the Beard Club. We welcome you deciding on whether I'm going to move to a hermit beard while self-quarantining. Yeah. So far, it's not been so bad. I've had the same experience the last couple of days where by the end of the afternoon, I'm sort of thinking maybe I want to shave this off because it's a little bit hot outside and it kind of gets a little itchy and scratchy. But in the morning like this, it's actually not too bad. It's really not too bad right now. Andrew Hughes, I really appreciate the kind words. It's very nice of you to say, and that means a ton to me. I can tell you this, that you call it a sense of normalcy for you. It really is that way for me. Just knowing that I still have this outlet to, kind of connect with the world. Because I'm not talking to very many people right now. I got the 3 other, people that live in the house with me, the 2 kids and my wife. Other than that, we're not really seeing a ton of folks right now. So this chance to come in here and take these comments and talk to you, that's about the only socialization I'm getting right now. So I'm good. I'm glad to be able to have it. Glad to be able to have it. Daniel Aldridge, thanks for the kind words. John Jared Bailey says this doesn't qualify as being a member of the Beard Club. Well, I mean, I'm just getting started. It's only been a couple of days. But thus far, now some of y'all that know beards better than me, and I mean this seriously, do you feel like on the basis of where I am after a little bit less than a week doing this, it looks like it's growing in pretty even. This thing's going to grow eventually, right? I mean, it's not like it's super splotchy, is it? So I think one way or another, I feel like we're getting somewhere with it. And it's also not that gray right now. Like right underneath my chin, it's a little bit gray. Other than that, I feel like I'm kind of in okay shape here. Monty Moon says if you can just strive through the itchiness for 2 weeks, you'll be golden. Yeah, it gets a little itchy in the afternoon. And when I get sweaty or whatever, I'm always like, maybe I made the wrong decision. Mercury 200 EFI says, congrats, your wife hasn't run you out yet. Yeah, she makes it very clear that she doesn't like it, but she also understands that content is king. And so right now the facial hair is content. So she understands that. She's a team player. John Beecham says 2 words, beard oil. Yeah, that's what somebody said yesterday too. So maybe I do need to do that. All right. Richard Sheffield says, we reached the bottom when we're talking about BA's body hair. Yeah, I know a lot of y'all don't like it when we get off the topic, but every now and then we have to kind of loosen things up here a little bit. For sure. Jay says a good time to build that man cave. Yeah. So I still haven't taken any pictures of it. So I do have a basement. It's not finished. But that is kind of where I put together the podcast studio for right now. So I'll have to show you how that's coming along here at some point in time. All right. Does anybody have any other Georgia stuff they want to do before we go? Anything else on the topic before we get out of here? More Cade Brock fullback talk. Yes. Listen, I love the idea of a fullback. I love the fact that Cade Brock appears to be the new Nate McBride. I'm excited about all of that. Hal also asking about the Falcon show with Chuck and I. Yeah, it's easier for me to, for a lot of logistical reasons I won't bore you with, it's easier for me to do the DawgNation show like this from my home than it is for Chuck and I together to do the Falcon show. But we're going to try to figure out something on that. Raymond Robinson says, you think UGA will kill it this season? Yeah, I really do. I have very high expectations for Georgia this upcoming season, and I can't wait to see it. All right, I think we're going to get ready to get out of here. Huge thanks to RS Andrews, making the RS Andrews cool down possible. Air conditioning, heating, plumbing, electric, they take good care of you. $99 AC tune-up if your air conditioning is not working the way that it should be. Also, check out my friends at Pella Window and Door. They can help equip your house with energy-efficient windows and doors. They're our Monday sponsor here on the program. I want to give them a little extra love right now. Let me read the special offer they have for you right now. You can get all your windows replaced for as low as $78 a month, or you can get 40% off qualifying installations between now and April the 23rd. A couple different ways for you to get in touch. Easy to remember the website, PellaBranch.com. That's PellaBranch.com, or give them a call, 404-445-2979. That's 404-445-2979. That'll get you in touch with Pella Window and Door of Georgia. So big thanks to everybody who's been here with us. We're going to do a lot to support our sponsors during this time because really for all businesses, this is a challenging time. And I think that concurrent to what's going on with our health, we also have to think about what's going on with our economy. And I can tell you this, that DawgNation, to the extent that I can control things here on DawgNation Daily, we're going to come out swinging. for Kroger, and for everybody else as well. So huge thanks to those who made DawgNation Daily possible. We appreciate them doing that. Big thanks to all of you as well. I'll see you at 5 p.m. today in the forum for our DawgNation social hour, forum.dawgnation.com. And then back here again on Monday for DawgNation Daily presented by Kroger. So y'all have a great, great weekend. We'll talk to you later on. And check out the podcast today. More on Gurley there, more on the great moments of the Smart era, and just generally speaking, a good time. Our buddy Connor Riley's going to join us. So if you haven't had a chance to hear from Connor lately, you can have it in the podcast as well. Y'all have a good weekend. Thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you again on Monday at the same time.